Welcome to Learn and Love Music. I'm Duane Hulbert. Today we're going to be looking at this wonderful sonata by Franz Joseph Haydn. And we're going to focus on ornaments. The classical composers used ornaments almost like a decoration on a cake. It has to be beautiful, it has to be very elegant, but it can't distract the melody at all. Today I'm going to give you 6 insights on how to play ornaments in the classical period. This would include Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven. Haydn was probably the least known of these composers, but his music is exquisite in the way that he uses ornaments. And so I love this B minor sonata because, first of all, it's in a minor key, which is very unusual for a classical sonata. Most of the sonatas are in a major key. But this piece, being in B minor, has a dark, kind of foreboding sound to it. But it has this energy, and the energy comes not only from the melody in the piece, but the way that Haydn decorates the melody with these ornaments. Before we get started, I want to encourage you to subscribe to our channel. We want to see you back again and learn and love music. Let's dig into these ornaments that Haydn uses in a B minor sonata. Point number 1. The first notes we play in this ornament, of those notes, the first one is the most important one. So we actually give it emphasis, and then always give emphasis on the first note of the ornament. Right from the beginning, Haydn does something interesting. He writes out an ornament in the first 2 measures. In fact, he writes out 2 ornaments. I'm going to play those ornaments. Here's one starting on B, ornament, another one. And what he's doing is he's kind of showing the pianist, this is how we're going to decorate this piece with these ornaments. But it's sort of like a tutorial. Do it like this, and the rest of the piece, I'm not going to show you B, A sharp, B. I'm just going to write a little turn, or maybe the trill. And most of the trills are very, very short trills. And the other one is a turn. A turn is like a trill, but it turns around. So it has a little bit more of a spin to it than just a regular trill. Number 2, turns also have to be on the beat. With these, there are a larger number of notes. Sometimes it's usually either 4 notes or 5 notes. In the case of this sonata, the first turn comes in the second measure, and we hear these notes. One of the nice things about what Haydn did is he wrote the fingerings in. And so what he wrote here is 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you do that fast, I always like the feel of that because it is 4, 3, 2, 1. And there's sort of a snap to it. What helps us on this snap is the thumb arrives as the last note of it. And again, but the important thing is it's not like Chopin where the notes are decorations before the beat. Always in the classical period, they have to be on the beat. Point number 3, make sure you observe the small sharp signs found in the 7th bar of the piece. Here, Haydn writes a nice turn, but if I did the turn in the key, it would sound like that. But everyone knows that in the classical period, well, actually most music has the leading tone in the minor. So for example, if we did a minor scale, we wouldn't do that. We would do that 7th step of the scale being sharp gives it a little bit more of a punch, a little more of a sparkle. So in this passage, I'll play the passage for you. It has a turn, and underneath are the sharp signs, so we get the A sharp at the bottom, and then here we have an E sharp. If I didn't have the turn signs, it would sound, it's a little dull. That sharp sign gives it a little bit more energy. It's called the leading tone. In any scale, that leading tone always has to be prominent. Here it is again. Point number 4. If you have fast notes involved in the turns, you want to make sure that they stay in time. They have to be done very, very quickly. Here's an example in the development section of the piece where I'm going to play it without the ornament. It sounds like this. But what Haydn does is he throws in this little turn, which makes it a little bit more difficult. I'm going to play it slowly. As we go faster, and we put it with the left hand, turn. Whenever turns involve something fast, you really have to, the fingers have to really fly over those notes. Don't slow down the rhythm no matter how fast the notes are. Just keep it really light and very brisk. Point number 5. In the beginning of the development, you'll have these half notes with turns above them. We still have to let those half note ornaments, these turns, to be very crisp. And also, once again, he throws in a lot of accidentals. And so in this passage, we have a C natural, that's written, but then the G sharp, that's in the score, and also. So it's very important when you see that sharp underneath the half note, that means that the last note in the group needs to be sharped. So let's see what that sounds like. G sharp, E sharp. Then you might ask, why didn't he just leave them without the sharps? Because it didn't sound very good. One of the interesting things about this passage is we have half notes and we have the turns. It's important that we have the correct notes in the key of this particular scale or in this passage here. It's very interesting in this passage too because the harmonies are a little bit tighter. These passages have a lot more of a chromatic kind of sound to them. So half steps, half steps. I always think of it as we have some sort of a foundation for these notes, but the little turns sort of tie things up in a really nice, neat package. And it makes it quick, and it makes it actually sparkle a little bit in those spots. The turns and trills in the classical period are meant to adorn the music, the playing melodies or whatever, but it gives it that sort of a uplifting, sparkly sound. And finally, point number 6. Toward the end of the piece, Haydn takes this long melodic line, sounds like this, and what he does is he decorates it, but we don't want it to pop in the same way the other ornaments have this sort of spark to them. This has to be put into this wonderful legato flow. So I'll play with the right hand alone. Turn. You put it all together. So there we want to make everything legato. This is different than the earlier part of the piece where we had a little bit more of a snap to the rhythm or to the articulation. And also, along the same lines, at the end of the piece, he actually writes out some of these notes in scales which give it sort of also this bravura kind of sound to it. And here it is. We have triplets. So a little bit of flashy music there that Haydn comes up with, something we haven't heard until the end of the piece. But it gives it this wonderful classical feel to it. And remember, in the classical period, we want to keep all those fast notes very light. So I hope you've learned something about appoggiaturas and decorations in the classical music, specifically with Haydn. Of course, Mozart and Beethoven used these same kinds of tools in their compositions as well. Make sure to check out our companion video where I'll be playing the entire movement of this first movement of the B minor sonata by Haydn. And we hope to see you again on Learn and Love Music. I'm Duane Hulbert.